Who's driving the bus, David?
Yeah, Richard Bandler, using your brain for a change. Who's driving the bus in there? And then you go, okay, this is all me. Now what do I do about it? And that's what the Wizard's Secret gives you from a business point of view. It's very esoteric. It's very magical. It's very out there. And yes, Conor, it absolutely goes, okay, this is how I can use all of this stuff to shape my business, to regardless of what the market's doing, regardless of what the economy's doing, regardless of any of those things.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day. This is the Kinect Unplugged number 40 with our world-renowned trainer, NLP master trainer, Huna master trainer, and corporate trainer, David Shephard. Kallum, would you like to share with the world a little bit more about David?
Yeah, of course. It's great to have David back. It's the third time we've had him on the podcast. So I'll be introducing him to the new listeners. David Shephard is one of the world's leading master trainers of NLP, hypnosis, and timeline therapy, and Huna. With over 30 years of experience in personal transformation, he has trained and certified thousands of students globally, equipping them with knowledge and tools to create profound change in their lives. David began his journey in Huna under the mentorship of Tad James, immersing himself in ancient Hawaiian teachings and mastering the spiritual and practical application of this powerful tradition. So since Tad's passing, David has been teaching Huna longer than anyone else on the planet, ensuring that its sacred knowledge continues to be shared with integrity, authenticity, and deep respect for its lineage. David, absolutely fantastic to have you back. I was excited to.
Welcome.
Great to be here again. You know, when you do that intro, I don't feel old enough. I go like, wow, okay, and yes, you know, it's a sad thing for me that that I have been teaching timeline therapy longer than anybody else on the planet now, and Huna from my lineage. I wish it wasn't true, but it's the way it is. I do feel a bit of a responsibility to carry on that almost like mantle, if you like. And it's interesting, it's episode number 40. If we looked into that from a numerological point of view, 4 is very much about structure. It's there are 4 dimensions to the universe, and then you've got a 0 after it, which means it's a 4 magnified. So it's very structured, and interesting that we've had so many structural technological problems before we went live today. And then apparently we've got a full moon in, is it Leo or something? So the 13th of February, which is what it is here. It might be almost the 14th of February where you are. So happy Valentine's Day.
It is Valentine's Day today.
Not quite here yet, but yeah. So people were saying that there was going to be some funky energy going around, and I think the interesting thing with that is, whether you believe it or not, is you just keep going and you keep doing what you're doing. You know, so many people use things like Mercury retrograde as being an excuse for not creating the kind of results they want. Whereas I'm not saying that Mercury's not retrograde. I'm just saying, let's just get on and do what we do anyway.
We've opened a few concepts here. Could you explain what Mercury retrograde means?
Yeah, I mean, it means that the planet Mercury, as far as the Earth is concerned, is going backwards.
Okay.
And Mercury is the planet related to Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great. It's the planet related to communications. It's the planet related to influence, and the planet related to electronics. So, and therefore the internet. So interesting that we had so many technological problems when we first got on.
So it's been about 6 months since I've got questions about that still. So I'll carry on that chain of thought. in regards to, as you said, people sort of using Mercury retrograde as a reason why things aren't happening, where is the line between that being true and that being an excuse?
Well, this was a big thing for me, which is something I share in the Wizard's Secret event that I've got coming up in Australia around cause and effect. So, I'd spent tens of thousands of dollars with Tad getting myself to the cause side of the equation.
That must have been some time ago, if it was in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, it was. It was 1993.
Wow. Yeah. Looking at over 100 now, I think.
Yeah, all of my training, practitioner, master practitioner, trainers training, et cetera, was about $10,000 in 1993, which was $10,000 more than I had. And I made it happen anyway. So I did all this to get myself onto the cause side of the equation. And then I got into astrology, and you go see an astrologer, and they go like,
yeah,
I'd stay single if I was you this lifetime. And I said, well, I don't want to. And then they go, well, you can't change the time of your birth, can you? So suddenly, after spending all this money to get myself to the core side of the equation, I'm at effect of the time of my birth.
Yeah.
Then, that had me deep dive into numerology, tarot, Huna, all of these kind of things, and really discovered that how those things are normally taught make it a very static thing. This is the way it is for you. Because of the date of your birth, because of the name you have, because of all those kind of things. And from then deep diving into that, I discovered in actual fact it's a very dynamic thing if you learn how to use all the things combined. So there's an upside and a downside. You can't use Mercury retrograde as an excuse anymore.
Yes.
But what you have got is you've got these things as an influence.
Yes.
Which, if you think of it as being waves, and you guys know this more than we do in the UK, it takes a lot of energy to paddle out against the wave.
Yeah.
But then when you surf back in, it's easy. So how do you ride the wave rather than battle against it? I think is really what I learned from all these things.
Incredible.
This is really interesting because it was only yesterday I was talking to one of our clients and they brought up cause and effect and they brought up a perceptual projection. The understanding at the time of the conversation before we sort of elaborated was that she was basically blaming herself for something instead of looking at it from, okay, well, what are the unconscious influences that are occurring? And we brought up the idea of the natal chart, and she actually said to me, oh, isn't astrology just for predicting the future? And I had a little chuckle to myself because that's what I thought it was. I remember getting my mum's magazines when I was younger and, flipping to the astrology page and it would tell you all about your next month or your next 2 months or your next 3 months. And like you said, the perception was that it was very static and there's nothing you can do about it. You've got these influences over you and that's just your karmic pattern and too bad, so sad. I hope that you're going to figure it out, it'll be okay. But when I started to learn more about the birth chart and about the influences and the energetic archetypes within those, it became fascinating on how that tool can actually be used as a way of making the unconscious conscious. I've got a funny book on my shelf up there. It's the Red Book by Carl Jung, and he talks about until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you call it fate. And
I've got a Red Book too.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, mostly to look at more than anything, because I definitely don't understand it, but it's a great book to look at. And it was an interesting conversation because what sort of transpired was that, wow, having this knowledge or having this awareness gives me a plethora of more tools in my tool belt than I ever thought I did with hypnosis, NLP, and timeline therapy. Because when you're working with those tools, you're typically working with things on the cusp of conscious unconsciousness. So you do have some sort of awareness of the problem or the emotion or the doubt or the limiting belief or decision. However, seems to be, at least in my experience, I'm not sure if you've been the same way, David and Connor, but there seems to be those things that you can't grab onto, you can't sort of even articulate. They're things that are so far out of our awareness or deep in our unconscious that we just think that that's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it's always going to be. And, you're speaking about numerology earlier, you're speaking about astrology. Those tools, when compared to your natal chart or your birth chart, is a fascinating way of drawing that which is unconscious to conscious awareness. Is this what you're kind of alluding to?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I cover on the Wizard's Secret, and you're quite right. You've got this situation where something's not okay, but you have no clue what it is. And then, and if you don't know what it is, then NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, even Huna is useless because you can't let go of a problem that you don't know what the problem is.
We'll let go of the problem.
So, what you could do, like, I would book a breakthrough session with Tad when he was around and go like, mate, you've got to help me out here. I know there's something wrong and I've got no clue what it is. Which again puts you at the effect side of the equation, so you've got to go outside. And, there's a particular thing that we can do with astrology, which is not normally taught, which is how to use other people in your life as barometers for what's going on with you. And also how it's a little bit like how feng shui works. Feng shui, you change your environment externally and it changes what happens internally. You've got the other way around, you change what's happening internally, it changes externally. So I was teaching a Wizard's Secret, and I got this lady on the training. Her name's Denise, and she said, my head's coming off. I've done all this training with you, and you've just gone totally over the now. So I said, well, let's do a demo. What do you want to work on? And she said, well, I'm single. And I don't want to be single. But relationships are just not working for me. So I said, well, she was grumpy with me at this point. Okay, you got to get that bit. I said, well, so what do you want to use as a barometer, as an external barometer? And she goes, my car. Which, I could tell she was going like, right, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here on this training. And so I did some calculations or whatever. And I said, okay, so how's your car's house? And she said, what do you mean my car's house? I said, well, where does your car live? And she goes, well, if you mean the garage, my car doesn't have a house because it's full of rubbish. Okay, so your car doesn't have a house and you don't have a relationship. So you got the connection yet? So she said to me, so are you telling me that if I clear out the garage, so my car is a house, I'll have a relationship. And I went, okay, well, if you say so. And she called me about 2 weeks later. She called me a few naughty names, which I won't repeat here.
It's still early in Australia. Yeah.
It is, yeah. And I said, so what's going on? She said, well, last weekend I decided, grumpy as I was with you, that I would tidy up my house, the car's house. So I got all the stuff in the garage out on the drive to decide what I was going to keep, what I was going to throw away. And this guy walked past, who apparently was just around the corner from me, but I'd never seen him before. And he started chatting to me, and he's asked me out for a date. Well, that was around about 15 years ago. They're now married, and they have been for the last 12, 13 years.
Fantastic.
So is that really what being at cause means? In that you can change your environment to change what happens inside of you?
So, well, we've lost Cal there for a second. So is that being at cause?
Cal's head's going off.
Yeah, that's such an impact on Kallum. He just had to step out. He'll settle down. He'll come back into his body, and he'll be back on shortly. This is interesting. So when you learned about being at cause, and then you realized about, I'm now at cause based on my date of birth, and then now I'm at cause for the planets. Now I'm at cause from something else. Where's the stop? Where does it end? It's like once I realized that there's another cause, there seems to be another cause, and then it just sort of expands out. It's like infinite, being at cause of something. But where does it? Yeah, does that make sense? I hope I'm understanding.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
It makes sense. Well, yeah, it makes sense in my universe. It might not all of other people's. So it does mean that you are at cause for everything. Which, when you first get it, that's a bit of a, you could perceive it as being a bit of a burden.
It's a responsibility. I mean,
responsibility, yeah.
To even for the viewers to even think that the concept, it's a bit like if a tree falls in the woods, doesn't make a sound type of stuff. If Denise hadn't cleaned her garage, would have she met Mr. Right?
We will never know.
We will never know.
There is that. He said tree falling down in the forest. There is the whole thing. If a tree falls in the forest and there's no women there, is everything still the man's fault?
Controversial.
And, the universal response I get from women is yes. So I think the big thing is, how do we go about using this?
Yeah.
We here in the UK, we are experiencing, it's just been in the newspapers. We're on the verge of a recession, if not a depression. And then, so a lot of people are going like, well, there's no point. There's nothing that we can do. It's the economy. And, when you look at the US, some of the biggest businesses were created during the 1920s depression with people who thought differently. And, I hear a lot of stuff at this point in time about resilience, people doing resilience training. I prefer to think more about flexibility than resilience. Because if you look at nature, a resilient tree, as in old and solid and firm, if there's a storm, it breaks and it's gone. Whereas a flexible tree, what it does when there's a storm is it bends. And when the storm ends, it comes back. So, I think the thing that's important is that we use what we know from NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, Huna, to be flexible and change the way that we do what we do dependent upon the environment.
It comes back to that law of requisite variety. The system, the most flexible behavior controls it.
Yeah. And, I've got a business client, a mentoring client of mine, was the CEO of a 9-figure international electronics business. And during COVID and lockdown, he increased the turnover and he increased the profit. What he said to me, he said, I was having a session with him and his wife said, "How did you do it? Everybody else is going out of business and all of these kind of things." And he said, I didn't have an answer at first. And then I came up with one answer: flexibility. I changed what we were doing. So, my experience has been that, Australia tends to be around about a year to 18 months behind the UK. I think now we've got global economics and local economics. So there is this whole global thing going on, and then there's also a local thing going on too. But if we're looking at, where we're talking about waves, friends, etc., how do we get ahead of the wave? How do we get ahead of the trend? Because, just like surfing, that's how you make sure you're not wiped out.
First, you have to know that the wave's coming.
Yeah.
You have to be able to.
And then you're going to be onto the thing. And, as we were talking about before, the big thing from Huna is energy. The more energy you've got, the better your health's going to be, the better your relationships are going to be, the better your business is going to be.
Better focus. Focus is going to be.
Yeah. And also, your energy flows where your attention goes. So you put your focus on something, and if you've got a storehouse of energy, or what we call in Huna, then you're going to be able to ride the wave, no matter what the environment throws at you.
So essentially what you're saying, there's a golden opportunity here, regardless of what external factors there are. You mentioned that, in the 90s, there was a bunch of US companies that became some of the largest companies in the world. And, I know through the last couple of financial crises, there's been grand opportunities for people to take advantage of if they had the eyes to see them. But they also need not just the vision, they need the energy to back that vision up. They need not just the energy to back it up, but the energy to block out all the noise around themselves when the opposite is being betrayed or people are falling into the mindset of, bother, like you said, the apathy that can creep in when you're in those circumstances, when the news is telling you one thing, when the radio is telling you the other thing, and things are slowing down in different sectors. What you're saying is that there is a grand opportunity that if people do have a storage house of energy that they can access, and they're able to maintain their focus and their attention in the direction of where they want to go, there's still going to be opportunities available to them.
Yeah, in fact, to a certain extent, bigger opportunities. There was a esoteric writer in the 17th century, Jacob Boehme, who said, if you want to have success in this world, look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite.
From back then.
Because the majority of people, if they are honest, both with you and with themselves, they're not living the life of their dreams. So the last thing you'd want to do is do the same as they're doing. The best starting point is to do the opposite. So, if we looked at it from a recession, depression, whatever point of view, most people go like, oh, there's no point. There's no point taking action. Whereas if you do the opposite, you go like, right, I'm going to go for it now. And that gives you a competitive advantage because your competitors are sitting there doing nothing.
Hi there, this is Conor and Kallum from Kinect Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. We have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.
Whereas you are going, right, now's the time for action. Now's the time for investment, which is why I think, the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, was a massive bestseller in the 1920s during the American Depression. Was bought by people who went, okay, I want to do something different.
Here's an interesting question. Do you think that, that book is a staple in most people's library, anyone who's interested in personal, professional development, do you think it would have had the same impact had it not been released during the Great Depression?
I don't think it would have been, actually.
Interesting, right? Yeah.
Because when things are going good, people get lazy. Yeah.
It's like that.
This, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I do. I can just relax. I can just rest. And everything will be okay.
I think there's a quote by, Tony Robbins. I think I heard Tony Robbins say it, like good times create lazy men create tough men, tough times, hard times, strong times, or something like that. But there's a cycle in a way.
Yes, I heard that recently because I did Robbins's training over the last week.
The Rise Summit. Yeah.
Time to rise.
Time to rise. That's it. Yeah.
I like to do that kind of stuff and keep up with what everybody's doing and work on my own personal development. And I think he mentioned that actually over those 3 or 4 days. So,
people get complacent. They do. They get complacent, and as a result, nothing gets done. They don't work on themselves. There's no need. It's sort of like the kiwi bird in New Zealand. Obviously, growing up in New Zealand, there were no predators, so it became flightless, and it had no reason to evolve. Whereas most birds around the world had to fly to get out of the jaws of the cat that was trying to get it.
Yeah. And then what happens is, because people aren't paying it, suddenly, in their experience, boom, they're not flat. And they go, where did that come from? In actual fact, it was coming in for a long time. There were the signs of the wave. So I think that's the other thing, energy. So mana from a Huna point of view, and awareness and attention and watching what's going on. to be, you know, to be able to surf the wave. And then the flexibility and the state control that we get from things like NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, and Huna.
So knowing what to look for, is there a book? How does one know what the signs are and how to look at how to differentiate between that's this and that's that, and then is there much open for interpretation to the viewer?
Personally, I use the Daily Mail, which is the UK's and the world's biggest newspaper, because it is the publisher of the truth. The thing for me, though, is what the Daily Mail gives you is what the majority of people are thinking.
Yeah.
Because it's what they're being, and it influences their thinking. Then I think the important thing is having goals, personal goals. And here in the UK, before the referendum, before we knew whether it was going to be remain in the EU or leave the EU, I had a very good friend of mine, Rob, say to me, how do you set goals when there's so much uncertainty? And I didn't really compute what he was saying. I said, well, what do you mean, Rob? And he said, well, Brexit or remain. How can we set goals when we don't know which one it's going to be? And the reason I couldn't compute it was I said, well, my goals are my goals. It doesn't matter whether we leave the EU or stay in the EU. My goals are still the same. The how might change, but the goal is still the same. He still didn't really get it. But I think that's down again to, goal, focus. 2, how are you going to get there? Energy. 3, flexibility. As in, the target is the same. The route and the journey might be different. I think that's the big thing we get from NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy and Huna.
And all of this presupposes awareness, right? So I think also what Conor was alluding to was you need to be aware of these things, and a lot of these things can be unconscious for people. Coming back to what I said earlier, using the other techniques that they may have learned or know about, like hypnosis, NLP, timeline therapy, typically they're great, but not as useful as some of the more advanced techniques that I know that you teach, David. One training that really, really excites me is the Wizard's Secret. And that's because it starts to dive into how one can find out and make the unconscious conscious so that it doesn't rule their life. So they're not having these things come out of left field and smack them in the face, so that they are, able to see things coming. We talk about incoming and outgoing projections. It's Conor and I often talk about. And, at the center of our projections is us. And then, there's concentric circles that move out. And if we are paying careful attention, if we do have awareness, then we can see those subtle barometers or indicators, as you said, starting to show us, hey, alarm bell, alarm bell, alarm bell, this is coming in. There's something that you need to do. There's something that you need to change. There's some sort of action that you need to take, which I think is the fourth thing. You talked about flexibility, but I think the fourth thing is the action taken, all those other things being considered. So is that sort of, I guess, some of the things that you look at in those advanced trainings? Because I know that you've got a couple of them coming up in Australia at the end of next month. And I think it's important that people know what's available and that they can come and learn those things.
Yeah. we've got a Huna level 1, which is our first level Huna training, which really teaches you about mana and the energy and how to, create the energy for yourself, and also having this bigger awareness. The Wizard's Secret goes way beyond that, way beyond Huna. In that's where we start to look at numerology, astrology, the tarot, and how we can use those things to really manifest our reality. The Wizard's Secret, it's not for the faint-hearted. It is really what I call true weird shit. I'm sorry, that's a little bit early in the morning for Australia.
It's 9 o'clock. The kids are at school, so it's just the parents listening now. Yeah.
For those people who are into that kind of thing, is how do you use these things as tools to be able to shape your reality?
So it's heavy duty.
It's heavy duty, yeah. And, create things differently than the masses.
So if I was a business owner and my intention was to grow my business, the Wizard's Secret would help me tap into something or give me skills to see the world through a different lens, and therefore I can make better strategic decisions. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing, as the owner of multiple businesses myself, I came to the uncomfortable conclusion that all of them were me. Yeah, I could blame staff, I could blame the market, I could blame advertising, I could blame anything. But at the end of the day, there was only one thing that all these businesses had in common, which was me.
Yeah.
So I always say the absolute best personal development program that you can possibly do is set up your own business.
Yeah, sure.
Because you are right in your face.
And the question is, who's driving the bus, David?
Yeah, Richard Bandler, using your brain for a change. Who's driving the bus in there? And then you go, okay, this is all me. Now what do I do about it? And that's what the Wizard's Secret gives you from a business point of view. It's very esoteric. It's very magical. It's very out there. And yes, Conor, it absolutely goes, okay, this is how I can use all of this stuff to shape my business, to, regardless of what the market's doing, regardless of what the economy's doing, regardless of any of those things.
Yeah. There's a interesting show that my wife and I are watching on Apple, streaming through Apple at the moment, and it's called Dark Matter. And
I've been watching it.
Oh, it's brilliant. Do you love it? It's really good.
Watching it too.
It's really good. And it's, I think the fascinating thing for me, without giving too much away or spoiling too much for people who might like to watch in the future, was the idea of superposition being directed, and then the reality in which you snap into being directed largely by the mind, and not just necessarily what you're focusing on with your conscious mind, but the emotional drivers as well. Those deep, not just anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt, but those core emotional memories that you can tap into, affecting the reality that you live in. And it's funny because I made the analogy in my mind that was similar to doing timeline therapy, because it's like, which timeline do you end up on after you release all these negative emotions from the past? And in the movie, they're trying to, tune into a particular multiverse, into a particular universe. And, they keep a lot of the work that they're doing is just with the conscious mind. They can, in the way that I perceive it anyway. But I think the skills that you learn at the Wizard's Secret help you to really tune into those deeper unconscious emotional drivers that have a huge effect on your perception of reality. And I guess the way I associate it was it's sort of bringing in, like you said, it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside, what sort of micro universe are you building around you and what are you tuning into? And that's yeah, now that you've watched it, that's cool because you might be able to speak to it a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember there was a episode of Star Trek, showing my age now, and when Whoopi Goldberg was in Star Trek.
Yes.
And she's in the, the mess. She's looking out the window and she goes, I've got it. We're on the wrong timeline. And that's very much about, I think, what dark matter is about, not to give too much away, is the whole idea of multiverses, multiple timelines, and those kind of things. And the tools and techniques that we've got enable you literally to move into a different timeline.
Okay.
It sounds a bit weird.
I still hear what this no camera.
Just no camera. Okay. I was going to say, Cal, you've gone dark.
Well, last time we spoke about the wizard secret, your camera went off as well.
Well, there we go.
And so for someone who is new to this, or if someone's new to this, or is the wizard secret for someone who is somewhat open already? I mean, if someone's new to this, would it be too much to shine that? Is it almost like shining a mirror?
I remember having someone come do the wizard secret, and it was the first training that she'd done with me. So she'd done nothing else. Whereas normally we say, okay, you've got NLP, you've got Tomlin therapy, you've got hypnosis, you've got whatever. But she was insistent, no, I want to come and do this particular training. And, so we said, yeah, okay. And she had her massive breakthrough, personal breakthrough, on I think day 3 or day 4. And she just said, right, I'm done now. I've had my major breakthrough. But I'm still going to stay here because I want to do all the meditations on the tarot. So for half the day, she just sat and smiled all day. And then she came and did master practitioner and trainer training with me afterwards.
So, yeah.
Whereas the majority of people do that before. But no, she had a big moment about day 3, day 4. And like I say, just sat there and smiled for the rest of the week.
Her life. Sat there and smiled for the rest of her life. She's still smiling now.
Yeah, she's still smiling now. Yeah.
So Huna is different from the wizard secret.
Yes. So Huna is the original teachings of the people, the ancient Hawaiian. So it is spiritual. It is medical. It is esoteric. I think that the big thing for me is that, and this was my experience of it, because I was into spiritual teachings before I discovered Huna in 1993. And it all seemed a bit woo-woo for me. I'm an engineer. I've got a degree in electronics. I did software engineering and for a living. And you don't do anything in engineering if it doesn't have a purpose and it doesn't have, and it's not going to work. So, I'd done some spiritual development stuff and I would go, okay, so how do I do this? And they went, well, just be. And that didn't work for me.
Okay. You needed a bit more substance, maybe.
I needed a bit more substance to that. I needed some steps. I needed some techniques. I needed those kind of things. And that's what I got in 1993 when I went to do my NLP practitioner training with Tad in Costa Mesa. There was a morning session on Huna. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what it was. But, I'd traveled halfway around the world to get there, spent all my money. So I went, right, I'm going to do everything I possibly can. I'll get up early and went to the Huna class, had some bizarre, unexplainable experiences in that morning session, but also I went, now, this is something I can use. And I think that's the big A. It is a philosophy, and also it's a practice. There are tangible, specific things that you can do that get you specific results. I mean, that was always the reason why I loved NLP, Tomlin therapy, and hypnosis, particularly the way that Tad taught it, was that you go, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and this happens. Very procedural. And the way we teach Huna is the same. If you want to have, if you want spiritual experiences, it's not just a matter about being. It's like, okay, look, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you'll experience this.
Yeah.
Which for me was revolutionary.
Yeah, it was a game changer for me too, because being someone who was very, very fascinated and interested in my own spiritual development and reading a lot of books at the time was, really a lot of it was geared towards a lot of really esoteric principles, and a lot were just, telling me to sit still and close my eyes and go to some beautiful nature place, environment, and stay there for as long as I possibly could, and then come back and, cross your fingers hoping things had changed. And, when I discovered Huna and also the information that's in the Wizard's Secret, there is, like you said, very specific, tangible steps and techniques that you can take to create a reality that you really want. And how to go about doing that is very, very clear. And that was different to anything I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit cliched, but it is kind of like Hogwarts.
Yeah.
It enables everybody to tap into their inner Harry Potter or Hiromi or whatever, Hermione.
Right.
And, it is like that.
Yeah. Besides you rarely coming to Australia and the fact that you're coming to Sydney and you're going to be running these trainings, and the fact that you have been doing these longer than anybody else on the planet now, why else do you think people, hopefully I'm still here and you can hear me still.
We can hear.
Why else do you think this is the right time? If people are listening and they're feeling a pull towards doing this training, if they're feeling a, some sort of, call into it, why is now the time?
I think for certain people, they're having a bit of an awakening. But also, you look around, all right, certainly I do, and, there's a lot going on. And, what I experience a lot with people who come do my trainings is they don't like what they're seeing is going on. And then there's a case of like, okay, how do I go about changing that for them personally? Yeah, sorry, Colin. Yeah.
Would you say, I liked what you just said, people are looking around at society, at life right now and thinking, I don't like what I see going on. Would you say that their awareness has opened up slightly, and would they be the type of people who would maybe swim against the tide and prosper during uncertain times because they're looking in a different direction from the masses?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. If you want to look at it in a very spiritual way, was it Gandhi who said, "Be the change you want to see in the world"?
He did, yes.
But and then, so we can look at it from that aspect, but also we can look at it in a totally personal, financial, business aspect. In that, I want to create something different in my business, my life, than other people are creating. And that means kind of like stepping out from the fold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing something different.
Popping your head up from the clouds and being okay to... Does it come into being okay to be the tall poppy in a way? Being okay to be... It's not about being different, but being okay to be on your own true path, irrespective of where everyone else is going.
Yeah, that's something which, when people do with The Secret, one of the first things we do is we enable people to discover what their true life purpose is.
I would imagine the fear would be holding... People would see it and people would want it, but I would imagine there's a huge amount of fear that holds them back from venturing off from the herd.
Some people, when they discover their true life purpose, they go, "Yes, I've always known that was what I was meant to do." Then there are other people that when they discover their life purpose, it brings up, as you say, fear. And, I got a student of mine, Jane, did training with me, first practitioner training with me in 1995. And we did an exercise where she discovered her life purpose, which was to be a teacher. And she didn't like that. She just went, "No way."
Yeah, because,
And she almost went on this path to discover as many different ways of discovering your life purpose as possible until she discovered one that she liked. But they all came up with teacher, 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 teacher. And she fought it. And it wasn't until, when would it have been? Just before COVID, actually. So it'd be like 2019, 2018, 2019. She had this major realization that her dad had always said, if you want to be successful in your life, don't be a teacher. She'd take that on board, and it would become, if you like, a limiting belief, a limiting decision. What does she do now? She teaches. She teaches NLP. She teaches Huna. She's not a school teacher, and she is a teacher. But she got this, and literally she fought that for what must be over 20 years.
And that's where I was thinking. People invest 5 years of their life in a certain direction. And when they have these realizations, or they feel that something, they should be in a different direction, but they don't know what it is, they can't grasp it, it would bring up like the risk, the fear of losing what I have based on an intuition to go this way. The risk would be high. So I'm just associating myself through the eyes of someone who would be going through this. They've invested 10 years in their, engineering career. They've worked their way up to a level. They're mediocrely happy, but sometimes they think it's better the devil you know. So I'll stick with this because I don't know that I may even go backwards if I jump off this track that I'm on. Would the Wizard Secret help someone sort of have that understanding, or is this a Huna? Where would that come?
So, yeah, we enable people to discover what their life purpose is. Then very much clear anything's in the way.
And like have that clarity and congruency and certainty to go up and get it.
Limiting decisions, etc. About whether it's okay, whether it's all right, all those kind of things. And then get the tools to actually make your life purpose a reality. I mean, it's quite a while ago now, but just after 9/11, I was running a training, and I always like to ask people why you're here and what you want to get out of it and all those kind of things. And this guy said, "Well, I looked at the planes flying into the skyscrapers, Twin Towers, and he said, I just wondered if I was looking out the window of my office and I saw an aeroplane flying towards me, and I thought about the fact I'd just spent all of my adult life doing something that I hate. How would that be?" Because a lot of people do spend their life doing something that they hate to make money or whatever, support their family. And he said, "So I'm here to find a way to do what I love." And I said to him, "So what do you love? What do you want to do?" And he said, I want to open a record shop. I want to sell vinyl." And I said, "Well, tell me where it is, because I'll be your first customer. Because I'm a massive fan of vinyl and records and all that kind of stuff." And he said, "But do you think I could make it?" He said, I earn a lot of money doing this job that I hate. Do you think I can make as much money running a record shop?" And I said, "Well, to be honest with you, I think you'll make more because you love it, because you're passionate about it. You put more energy into it, and you put more time into it than you do your 9 to 5. Then the thing he sent to me, which I found fascinating, was he said, "Is that okay?" And I went, what do you mean, is it okay?
He wanted permission.
Is it okay to make a lot of money doing something that I love and enjoy? I was like, whoa, okay. Yes, it is, but a lot of people don't have that belief. It's not okay for them to do something that they love, do something that they enjoy, and make a living out of it. So yes, all of that people get from the Wizard's Secret.
You hit the nail on the head there. Even asking, is it okay? Who was he asking? That's who was going. I think Cal said the P word, which is permission. It's interesting. Like who are people asking in their head for that permission? And I
think they seek permission for everything now too, especially for going after their dreams and going after doing something they love. I know that was a big thing for me. It was like you had to go to university. I went to university for 2 years, just lost interest. Went and did a trade because that was the other thing you have to do. When did that, felt really obliged to get involved with family business after that. Hated that, and got into the mine because that's what everybody else did where I was from. Because again, that was just what you did. And to think outside of that is there being other possibilities, and you can actually go and get after it and do it. A lot of times people do get stuck into these social constraints, these social frameworks where they feel like they actually need permission in order to go and explore the world and what could be possible for them. That's exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about making the unconscious conscious, because up until that point, I just thought, well, this is just what you do. You just go to primary school, you go to high school, you go to university. When that didn't work out, I was like, well, then you get a trade, and that's what you do, and then you don't know any other way. That's the point of when you're making things that you are deeply unconscious about conscious, because you're like, wait, why does it have to be that way? And who am I asking for permission, and why can't I give myself permission? Unfortunately, a lot of us need a slap in the face before we can change it. But I love what you're doing with the Wizard's Secret, because you can do that before the slap in the face happens. And that's what I think is the true gift that you're giving when you're teaching people the Wizard's Secret.
It puts you ahead of the curve. And then, if you look at the world around us, we're continually told, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this. which installs the need for people to ask permission. As in, can I do this? Well, if you've got nobody to ask, then you just follow the track. I had the same thing. My whole thing was to be the next Elvis Presley. And, I had my own band and all that kind of stuff, and we were pretty successful. And so that was what I was going to do. But my mum and dad said, well, before you go into the music business, go to university and get a degree. So when it all goes wrong, you'll have your degree to fall back on. And so, I went to university, I did electronics and met the girl and got the proper job and all that kind of thing, followed the path. And, I often think about it now and I go like, well, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and Huna is my.
Yeah, it's your Elvis.
I'm doing Elvis, but in a different kind of way,
Yeah.
I haven't got the sideburns anymore, but there we go.
Awesome. So you said you're coming to Australia, which is amazing. Yeah. First time ever. Have you been to Australia before?
No.
Not even as a holiday, not even to...
Nope. This will be...
And where are you coming into?
Sydney.
And when are you going to be here?
Now you're asking.
I think talking with Sally, it's around the same time I'm in the UK,
You're
right?
in the UK.
So I'm in the UK. Connect and Convert UK is April the 4th, 5th and 6th.
Yeah. I think it's about the same kind of time.
I have a funny feeling that it might be in March, around the 20th. And then it goes over.
Yes. I've just pulled it up now. Huna Level 1 is the 25th to the 29th of March. Sydney.
So that's 6 days.
That's 5 days.
5 days, yeah.
And then the Wizard's Secret starts on the 31st of March and runs through for 7 days. So that would be the 5th of April.
Okay. So Huna Level 1, 25th of March until the 29th in Sydney. And then the Wizard's Secret, March 31st till April the 6th.
April 6th. Again, Sydney.
Sydney, same location. So if someone wanted to, can someone do back to back? Is that okay?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Be great to do them back to back. Yeah, get on a roll.
We're also going to be running some Huna events over the next couple of weeks. You're going to be a cameo. If you know it or not yet, David, we're going to be bringing you in at the end of our 2-day training. So we'll those people who want to dip their toes in as well, keep an eye out for those notifications. I put some posts up yesterday. We're going to start filling a webinar first, and then we'll be doing a 2-day intro. And for those people that want to dive straight in, they can get in contact with who, David?
Get in touch with Sally. I think she's going to send you a landing page with information. She said she sent it me before I got it on the call, but I didn't get it. So a few technical hitches.
Well, Mercury's in retrograde, right?
She's helping us in the chat room right now. She's got the dates there for everybody. 25th to the 29th for Huna Level 1 in March, and then Wizard's Secret 31st of March to the 6th of April 2025.
Yeah. And, the whole thing about synchronicities, I'm still sure that when I used to live in Acton in the early 90s that, Cal, you were serving me my pints of ESB in the King's Head.
Yeah.
In Acton.
Yeah. That was 2000, 2010, I think it was. But yeah, I think he was still living there or hanging out there at the time. So yeah, it would be great way to finally meet you in person. I'm going to be there with you in the training room as well for a few of the days. So very much looking forward to being there and assisting and meeting you in person. And also, from what I've heard, there's been a bunch of people that I know very well and very personally. They've said that being in your training room when they're learning Huna is like nothing they've ever experienced before. There's a lot of it is just purely straight out of your mind. You're not reading from notes. You're not reading from the manual. You're not reading from slides. You're simply just sharing the traditional ancient Hawaiian Huna ways in the way that was initially taught, and that was passed down orally. And I'm fascinated to watch that because when I teach the Huna training, I'm still very much leaning on the slides and notes that I have, but I can't wait to be in your presence and to learn it in that way.
This is going to be great. Yeah.
I I channel Uncle George, I channel John Kihimikawa, and I channel Uncle Tad. And then obviously it all comes through me. So it has my flavor, my filters on it. But I definitely feel that when I do it. Yeah. And then, Connor, I think I was running an event in the Le Meridian in Piccadilly when you were there.
Yes, in 2001. I was at Le Meridian in Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah.
I was the smiling at the time Kiwi behind the desk, and you ran an event there.
Yeah.
At exactly the same time.
Yeah. I ran one of my very early Wizard Secrets, actually.
Yeah. Full circle, coming back full circle in a whole new...
I mean, the synchronicities, the connections are just like, they're weird and they're not weird, if you know what I mean.
But when I come up, because I live 4 hours south of Sydney, when I come up to the airport to fly to the UK, it will be around the time Huna is on. So I'll be coming in and spending some time and pop in and say hello, with the class and yourself. It'd be great to see you in person again.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Look forward to it.
Amazing. Well, David, we are incredibly grateful for you to stay up tonight. It's about 10:45 p.m. your time.
Yeah, 10:45.
Greatly appreciate your time, your wisdom, your knowledge, and how freely you share it. Now, Kallum and I, speak offline a lot about how generous you are with your information, and you just, whenever someone asks a question, there's no filter as such. It's just the information, and thank you very much for playing that role and doing and giving that to our community today as well.
No, it's my pleasure. I always say, before you can, it's a thing. Before you can receive, you got to give. And also, if you're not okay with the receiving, then you've got nothing to give anyway. And all of my mentors, teachers, like I mentioned Tad, and I mentioned Uncle and John, they were all very generous with me, both in and out of the training. They all of them became very good friends of mine. So I just want to carry that tradition on, really.
Well, David, we are off to start the last day of our business accelerator. Kallum is back on stage. And any final words, Cal?
Yeah, no, I think it's great to have made this connection with you, David, especially with these trainings. There's so many people that reach out to me all the time asking me where I did it, where they can do it. And, I couldn't be more excited to share the relationship with them and pass them over and let them know about what you and Sally are doing. And, obviously to all of us, Tad was a mentor and, he was also a good friend. And I feel very supported by him energetically in having Australia and having you, teach these trainings in Australia. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great stuff.
All right.
When does your training start? In 10 minutes?
10 minutes. So we'll unplug again from the Matrix. David, if you could stay on, and wishing everyone an incredible day. And we'll see you again very soon.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you very much for watching the Unplugged podcast with Kallum and Conor from Kinect Coaching. Hope you loved this guest this week as much as we did. Cal?
What we wanted to remind you of is that if you wanted to steal our forever business model, which is perfect for all sorts of businesses around the world, to start to build extra revenue in your business right away, get instant access by clicking on the description and going into the link below, watching the 9-minute video where we unpack everything. See you next time.